Perfect. I like this because it's a smaller group. We can kind of talk, chat about things as we go, and hopefully you guys learned something good here. So anyways, today what I really want to go over is how to get leads with YouTube, because there's so many real estate agents that will make a few YouTube videos, they'll start to do it, and then they quit because they don't really get any traction with it. And so today the goal is to help you guys understand how to get leads from YouTube. So just a little bit about me. I am a licensed agent in Tennessee and Georgia. I'm on the Wendy Dixon team. I'm almost 2 years into real estate, so I'm pretty new myself. Grew up in Ringgold, Georgia. I just became a dad, so that is the most exciting thing in my life right now. This is Gracie Ann. She is 6 weeks old yesterday, so she's brand new, keeping me up at night. So I'm running on a lot of caffeine right now and not a lot of sleep. So if I go too fast on anything, just let me know. My background, so I grew up around here, then decided to go to college out on the West Coast. While I was in college, I had a lot of background in media production, and I launched a boutique ad agency. And so I started doing media for smaller companies, and then in all my free time, I would pitch big companies. So I just send cold emails out, and I ended up getting to work with Cadillac, Red Bull, and Toyota before I shut that down. Then in 2023, I had spent all of 2022 making a docu-series as kind of a side project. I sold that to PBS, and I thought, what now? I had a little bit of money. I decided to move back to Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is where all my family is, and my wife's family is. And it's just kind of this what now moment, and I've always liked YouTube. And so I decided that I was gonna do nothing except for YouTube for 6 months. Like I fired every client that I had in my ad agency. I was like, I'm going all in on YouTube, and I'm gonna grow a huge channel. This is gonna be successful. And so my wife was a little iffy about this. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a deal with you. I'm gonna do this for 6 months, and if at the end of 6 months, I'm not making $5,000 a month from YouTube, I'll quit and get my real estate license. So I've got my real estate license. The best month that I did on YouTube was about $2,800 from that channel, and that was at month 5 of having that channel. So after 5 months, I went from 0 to about $2,800 a month. And it was pretty good, but to be honest with you, the amount of work I was putting in for that amount of money, I was probably getting paid like $2 an hour to do as much as I was doing. It was ridiculous. So I was super burnt out. But a couple of the highlights from that, I gained 20,000 subscribers. In that period, I got hundreds of thousands, millions of views, probably tens of millions of impressions off of that. And then several major publications actually ended up picking up some of the stuff that I did. Basically in the channel, I would run an experiment on myself. So I would pick a diet. I would go do the diet for an extended period of time, get all the blood work measured, get all the biomarkers around it, and see is this diet actually worth doing or not. And so these are a couple of the publications that picked me up. I actually did an interview with the Sunday Times in London. That was a lot of fun. And that brings me to why I'm here today. So I think there are 4 ways that you can get leads in real estate. There's cold outreach. So you can go cold call, you can call expireds, you can call for sale by owners, cold outreach. What I don't like about cold outreach is, one, you're calling people that for the most part don't want to hear from you, and it's one-to-one. So you have to be putting in to call those people, or you have to hire somebody to make those calls for you. So that's the only way to get leverage there. The second way to get leads is warm outreach. So this is what people refer to as your sphere of influence, and this is a super effective way to get leads because these people tend to already know and like you, hopefully, if they're in your sphere. And so I think that this is a little bit better, a step better than cold outreach for most people. The third way to get leads is paid acquisition. So this is buying Zillow, this is running Facebook ads, Google ads, paying to get in front of potential buyers and sellers. And this is a little bit better. What I like about this is it's one-to-many. So you can spend your money and you're not having to invest, like your dollars are what's getting you the leverage there. It's not your time. With cold outreach and warm outreach, it's your time, so time in, time out. With paid acquisition, you put money in, you get leads out, hopefully. Now, what I like about YouTube, this is what makes YouTube the most attractive platform to me, is that you're creating content for people that's actually adding value to them, and in return, they want to work with you. And what I like about this is it's one-to-many, so I can spend 5 hours making a video, and in turn, people are going to watch this for the next several years, and so there's a lot of power there, and that I'm putting a little bit of time in and getting tons of other people's time over the next several years if you do YouTube right, which a lot of people don't, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So my goal today is just to help you guys understand how to use YouTube properly to reach the correct audience so that you can get leads from YouTube. Okay, so before we get into that, I want to talk about why YouTube is the most powerful lead generation tool for agents, in my opinion. So first of all, it's got an immense scale to it. There are 2.7 billion monthly users on YouTube, and as more and more of the world gets online, the platform continues to grow. YouTube is not going anywhere. It is also the second largest search engine in the world, and it's owned by the first largest search engine, which is Google. So Google is the largest search engine. Most people in the world have access to Google. They're making their searches on it. But what's great about Google owning YouTube is that if you do well on YouTube, Google will actually push your results. So how often do you go to YouTube and search, I don't know, like maybe, why is my AC unit frozen? YouTube videos might pop up there in those search results. They're gonna pop up as some of the top search results because Google, the owner of YouTube, has found that that is what users want the most. They want to be able to quickly click on, see another person, walk them through that problem, and that is super, super powerful. So within YouTube, you've got the second largest search engine. On Google, you have the first largest search engine, and they really work in tandem. The other thing that I think makes YouTube so powerful is the longevity of the content. And so this is really amazing. If you're spending all of your time posting on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, that content that you're posting has a pretty short shelf life. So maybe I spend some time going out and making a TikTok video of me showing people my favorite restaurant in Chattanooga, okay? That video maybe has 3 days where TikTok is pushing that out to new viewers, and then TikTok kind of just shelves that and puts it away and doesn't push it anymore. If we go onto YouTube here really quick, let's go ahead and search up Chattanooga. So let's just search Chattanooga, Tennessee. Okay, so look at this. This video is the top result here in terms of long form videos. 9 months ago is when it was published. Newsworthy stuff tends to have a little bit shorter of a cycle on YouTube. This video 3 months ago, you've got some realtors popping up here. 1 year ago, 7 months ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago. So this content has a long shelf life. It's not, you're not gonna make the content and then it's gonna disappear and not be promoted anymore in 3 days. YouTube will continue to push that content if you make that content well for a prolonged period of time. So your investment, in my opinion, is much better spent on YouTube than it is on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok because of the shelf life of the content. Okay, and then the other thing that YouTube does extremely well is they're a search-based platform and a recommendation platform. And so what this means is usually when you're creating content on YouTube, you're thinking about specific terms that you want to rank for. So let's say that I want people to think of me when they search Hickson, Tennessee. Then I can make a video called The Pros and Cons of Living in Hickson, right? Then people that are interested in living in Hickson, that video might show up in search results, but then people that have maybe looked elsewhere on Google, not specifically on YouTube, for information about Hickson, when they come to YouTube, YouTube will start to recommend content on Hickson, Tennessee to them. And so you're getting traffic from search results, from people searching specifically for what your video is about, and then from YouTube understanding the audience and promoting your content to those people that would resonate with your content. That is the power of YouTube. YouTube is extremely good at this, and when you do this properly, when you optimize your content properly, YouTube will continue to push your content 24/7 for you to people that want to have your content. Any questions so far? Cool. Okay, so YouTube analytics, this is something that a lot of people have trouble with. It's like opening KW command and seeing all the different things that you can do in there and just being like, oh my goodness, I'm never gonna learn this. I might as well just give up. I'm not even gonna try. That's what YouTube can feel like when you first open the back end dashboard there. I'll show you this really quick. I mean, there's numbers, there's graphs, there's like, what does any of this even mean? Who cares about this? What does this matter? So this is one of the things that's really fundamental to understanding and doing well on YouTube. But before we get into analytics, we have to understand the YouTube algorithm. So how many people have heard of the YouTube algorithm? Heard of the YouTube algorithm? Okay, who can explain what the YouTube algorithm is easily to me? Or the Instagram algorithm? What's the job of the algorithm? What's the algorithm trying to do? Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. So this is something that I heard somebody say a couple years ago, and it stuck with me. If the platform is free, then you are the product. And so Instagram is free, YouTube is free, TikTok is free. And that's because you as the viewer, as the audience, you are the product for those platforms. And so in order for the platform to be successful, the platform has to be good at putting the content that you want to watch in front of you so that you'll spend more time on the platform. Because the more time you spend on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, the more money they make because they sell ads to advertisers that are interested in advertising to you. And so the YouTube algorithm's job is to sort all of the content that comes on platform and then create recommendations for you as an audience member. And so there is 500 hours of content being uploaded to YouTube every single minute right now. That works out to about 720,000 hours of video content being uploaded daily. And I think these numbers are a little bit outdated here, so it's probably more than that. But think about the immense amount of data that's being uploaded to YouTube. And when you get on YouTube, at least for me, there's usually recommendations there on my homepage. There are things I want to watch. There are from creators, from people that I'm interested in, and so I'll click on that and watch that. And so what a lot of people will think about when they're first getting started on YouTube or Instagram or wherever is they'll be like, the algorithm just doesn't like me. The algorithm's against me. The platform doesn't like me. The platform doesn't want me to succeed. The thing is YouTube's job is to get the right content in front of the right people, and when you first start, it doesn't have the data on you to understand who your audience is and who you're trying to target with your content. And so it's difficult for the algorithm to properly put that content in front of the right audience at first. The other thing that I like to think of when I think of the algorithm is you can almost replace the word algorithm with audience. And so when somebody says the algorithm doesn't like me, you can replace that with the audience doesn't like the piece of content that you just made. Because, which is it can be a harsh truth. You know, you spend 20 hours on a video and it gets 3 views, and that can be a really harsh truth. But what it's a signal of is that the audience just didn't respond to the idea that you thought was a really great idea, and that's why it's so important to know your audience. and to understand the people that you're trying to target and communicate to. And so I'm sure that if you've been to a bunch of real estate seminars and things, you've heard people talk about your target audience, your target persona, your target avatar. These are all words that mean the same thing, and it basically means that you want to have a clear picture of who you're creating content for before you even go in and start making content. And so within real estate, a lot of people think that, I'm just going to target everybody in real estate. I need clients. I need to make some money. Let's target everybody who needs to buy or sell a house. And this is one method to get started. I think a lot of people will take that when they get started. But it's better if you can drill down and think, okay, my target audience is single moms relocating to Chattanooga, Tennessee, who need affordable housing and great access to parks. That's a really specific target avatar, but the more specific you can get, the better your content will be towards those people. And this actually helps YouTube figure out who to push your content to and who should be watching your videos. So, hopefully that makes sense. Any questions? Question? No, go for it. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. So it's a little bit more nuanced than the tag words for something like that. But let's say that my goal over time, this is actually my target audience right now on YouTube for real estate. I'm targeting young families or working professionals who are seeking to relocate to Chattanooga and build wealth through real estate. So either investing or just buying a great home for their family, those sorts of people, okay? And so you have to start thinking about the interest that demographic would have. And so if they're young professionals, they're making a little bit more money, they might be interested in gated communities, golf communities, they might be interested in places with great amenities in the community. So thinking like Ooltewah with Cambridge Square, with Little Debbie Park, things like that. That would appeal to that target audience. And so you want to think of what is that target audience going to be searching for when they look for that kind of content. And so we could use a different demographic. Let's say working professionals that want walkability and close access to downtown. So I'm thinking North Shore or South Side. Those would probably be the neighborhoods I would start to highlight for those people. And so you're going to want to think like the audience. What are those people searching for when they search for Chattanooga? Are they searching for walkable areas in Chattanooga? Go for it. What were you going to say? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. Exactly, and they probably had a really specific target audience in mind with somebody like you that's coming as a tourist but might one day want to relocate there or retire there. And so when you know your target audience, like if I know my target audience is retirees looking for walkability, then that's going to totally shift the type of content that I'm going to make. I'll talk about retirement communities, gated communities, golf communities, those sorts of things if I'm thinking people with a little bit more wealth that like spending time on the lake. That's my target avatar. There's literally, what's his name? Mr. Lakefront. It's like a big realtor around here. Is it Jay Robinson team? I don't know. James Perry, yeah, he's got a boat and it says Mr. Lakefront on the back of it and he uses that in his advertising. I don't think he does, but if he did, this would be the strategy. You do every lakefront tour that you can, because if that's who he wants to sell houses to, then as soon as somebody searches that topic, you want to be the first person that shows up. So when you understand your audience, you can make content that's specifically for those people, and this helps YouTube put that content in front of those people. Does that make sense? Okay. This, oh yeah, I forgot about this slide. So it's really easy when you start making content as a real estate agent to sit back and be like, okay, I'm doing this so that I can make money because this is going to be a new lead generation source for me. But if you put yourself in that mindset, it can be really difficult to actually make content that serves the audience and to put the love and the care and the time into it that it takes to rank well on YouTube. And so you always have to think about it from the perspective of the audience and put yourself in the shoes of your target audience and ask, does this actually help them? So whether it's retirees, single mothers, families, whatever it is, think about what they care about and then create from that standpoint. Okay, let's get into analytics a little bit. So when YouTube is filtering down all of those videos, the 720,000 hours of content that's uploaded every day, they look at a few different metrics. So if they're trying to recommend content to you, they're looking at your demographic information first. So what's your age? Where are you based geographically? What language do you speak? That's the first thing that they use to filter down that 720,000 hours of content and get it into something that might be remotely interesting to you. And then they look, oh, go for it. Through your Google account, they have pretty much all that information. So I mean, there's like data mining companies out there that look at your searches. They're looking at pretty much everything that you do online, and they figure it out pretty quick. So I think YouTube, for some things now, because of child advertising laws, I think they even require ID for certain accounts now on YouTube. So they'll know all that. But they're looking at what language you're searching into. They're looking at what other people like you are interacting with. So say that I'm really into F1 racing. Well, they're going to look at what other people that are watching F1 racing videos are watching. Like, so say that maybe people that like F1 also like watches, and maybe they'll recommend me a few channels that cover watches. So those would be the sorts of things that they look at. They look at what do people like you also like, and they'll recommend that content to you. Then when they're looking at what specific videos to recommend to you, they're looking at what are called performance metrics. And so the first performance metric is click-through rate. Sounds a little bit complicated, but what it means is that out of all the impressions that YouTube gave your video, so out of all the people that saw the thumbnail and title for your video, how many of those people clicked on the video? So I'll demonstrate this really quick. So by me looking at this guy's video thumbnail right here, and title right here, I'm giving him an impression. But I haven't clicked this video, so I'm actually lowering his click-through rate really quick, a little bit here, because I'm one of the people that YouTube has showed this to, but I didn't actually click, and so that reduces his click-through rate. Click-through rate is a really important metric for YouTube because it signals to them that the idea that you have presented in your thumbnail and title is interesting to the audience that they're showing it to. So if nobody clicks, like if your click-through rate is 1% out of all the people that they show it to, this is a signal to YouTube that it's not that interesting of an idea to your audience. I'll show you a few examples of that later too. That's really good. Like, the best YouTubers in the world are lucky if they get 12%. Like, that's like the top of the top on YouTube. The best videos that I've ever made on my health and wellness channel, the best click-through rate that I ever had was 13%, but over time, as YouTube shows your video to a broader audience, then that click-through rate will go down. Yeah, this is a more and more general audience versus the people you specifically made it for. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I look at it all the time because to me, the click-through rate is a signal of did I actually make something that the audience cared about? And so, like, because my thought process with YouTube is always, what does the audience want and how can I serve the audience better? And if you're not serving the audience, then there's not too much point in doing YouTube. So basically what click-through rate is measuring is, will people click on your content? And this is just, describing this a little bit more. It's basically impressions versus views. That's what click-through rate is. So how many people YouTube offered your video to versus how many people actually clicked on the video. Okay, the next metric that we really care about on YouTube is average view duration. So how long did people actually watch your content on average? And so let's say that I made a 20-minute video, and on average, people are only watching 4 minutes of that video. Then to YouTube, that's going to be a signal that the video, while the content might be kind of good, it doesn't really grip the viewer, and to them, they're gonna be like, okay, we're not gonna recommend this to a broader audience, because the people that we showed it to, they only watched 4 minutes, so it's probably kind of boring. And YouTube's goal is to keep people on platform as long as they can so that they can make more money. And so that's the importance of average view duration. You want to keep people on your content as long as you can, and there's a couple ways to do this. We'll get into that later in the video, or in the, sorry, I'm used to talking to a camera, later in the presentation here. But basically a really good average view duration. At first, this number should be a little bit higher, like right after you post a video, you might get 60 or 70% average view duration. Depending on who you tell about your content, like I remember when I first started posting content on YouTube, my mom found my channel right away, and she would like watch the whole thing and like text me about it. It's like, Mom, you're throwing off my stats. It makes it, it looks like people are watching longer than they should. So, or like her friends, for some reason they like to watch my videos all the way through, but which is very nice. I'm not complaining about that too much. It's funny. So anyways, that number will start out higher, and then over time as it gets shown to a broader audience and people that might actually connect with your content, that number will likely go down. Okay, and then the king metric for YouTube is how many minutes people watched. And so they're looking at average view duration as a percentage of the total video that you made. So if it's a percentage of, like, let's say 20-minute video, 4 minutes watched, that's like 20% of the video that people are watching there. That would be really bad for YouTube, but then they're looking at the overall minutes watched. So some channels, like Joe Rogan, uploads these 3-hour-long podcasts, and maybe people are only watching 20% of the 3 hours, but that's still a really long time spent on YouTube. And so YouTube will push that content, even though as a percentage of the video, it's not that long. It's still a really long time to be sitting on YouTube and watching compared to, just 4 minutes, which is 20% of that 20-minute video. And so basically what this all comes back to is more watch time equals more recommendations from YouTube, so YouTube will push your content further. The why behind this is that the longer you keep people on YouTube, the more money YouTube makes. The more money YouTube makes, the more they'll push you. So YouTube is all about, it's a publicly traded company through Google, and profit maximization is the key there for them. So if you can help them maximize their profit, they'll help you get a lot of views. Okay, other helpful signals. And I look at these some, but you can get a little bit lost in the data if you just went into everything that YouTube offers you. And so the other helpful signals would be, one, returning viewers. So how many people that are watching your videos are coming back to watch more videos. YouTube will actually show you that. So that's a really good metric. In the real estate space, this number is a little bit less than it is in other niches, because once somebody buys a home in your city, they're probably not going to keep watching your content for 10 years. That's all based on, researching the area, because they've already moved. Traffic sources, so search versus suggested. I actually look at this a lot. So what this is saying is YouTube pushing your content out, or are you just showing up for specific search terms? So are you just showing up when people search for Hickson, Tennessee, or is YouTube actually pushing your content out to other people? If YouTube is pushing your content, that's generally a really good sign that you did something right with the content overall. So I look at that quite a bit. And then audience demographics, I think this is really important because you can know your target avatar or your target client, but does that target client actually align with who is watching your videos? And so maybe you think that your target client is first-time home buyers, 30 years old, newlyweds, mostly male, and then you go into your watch time and you see that your demographics are actually 65 plus, they're predominantly female, and they're from Canada. I don't know, it'll show you all that information, but you just want to make sure that who you're trying to target actually aligns with who's watching your content. And if it doesn't, then that's a signal that maybe you're just the person for the 65 plus women from Canada, and that's who you should lean into as your new target audience. Go for it. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you exactly where to find this really quick. So if we go into content on this channel, this video is called Don't Move to Chattanooga until you watch this, and then we can go to traffic source. So suggested, okay, so I should have explained this a little bit better on this slide. Browse feature, browse is like YouTube pushing the content out to other people. So you can see 52% of the views on this video are YouTube pushing it to other people. Then suggested means that it's suggested at the end of somebody else's video, or it's suggested in the sidebar right next to somebody else's video. And so you can see 26% is actually coming from that. So that means that YouTube is placing me like an advertisement on other people's YouTube videos that might be on a similar topic, which is great. I mean, it's like YouTube is putting me on the competitors' videos right here, which is really cool. And then YouTube search, you can see that actually only 6.5% of the views on this video are coming from YouTube search. So that's, to me, this is a good signal. It means that YouTube is working for me and that it's pushing that content out. And that, search is great if you're ranking in search, but it's a little bit harder. There's literally, I think there's 1.7 million videos that are tagged with Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so that's a huge pool of videos to compete with. So I'd rather YouTube push me than try to compete with all those for ranking in search. Yeah. We can get into, do you want to see where demographics are too? I can show you guys that. Let's see here. So if we go to analytics, audience. So you can see it's 71% male, 28% female, and then the age, look, I've got a huge segment in 65 plus, which is really interesting. This is super interesting to see that YouTube is starting to gear towards an older demographic. And then I've got kind of this mid segment here, 35 to 40 years old. Almost nobody in this middle segment, which is really interesting. And if you want to see on a bigger channel, I'll show you. This is one of my other channels here. So we can go to analytics, audience. So on this channel, this is my health and fitness channel. You can see most of my viewers are in this 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 40, and I don't have anybody over 65 plus watching this channel. So very different audiences, primarily the United States and then India. But if you know this kind of information, it changes how you create content a lot. And seeing that my audience is a lot over 65 plus, that probably means I need to focus on some different content, actually. I haven't looked at that in a while. I manage a ton of channels. So I have a business in YouTube consulting for people. I'm trying to get out of that business, but I manage like all of these channels here. for others. I have like 4 channels myself. Okay. So how agents use analytics. One of the most important things, and we're going to get into this a lot later, is testing thumbnails. And so your click-through rate is going to depend a lot on your thumbnail and title. And so if you post a video and it's not doing very well, let's say you have a 1% click-through rate, then maybe the video is not so bad itself, and maybe it's the way that you package the video. So maybe people didn't like how you were posing in your thumbnail, maybe people didn't like the title that you chose, they thought it was boring. But those would be the first things to look at if your click-through rate is low. The other thing is you can actually track drop-off points for people. And so what's cool is as your channel grows and as you start to get more views on your channel, YouTube will actually show you the exact drop-off points that people are leaving your videos. So this is called a retention curve right here. And you can see that as people watch this video, they're slowly dropping off. And this is actually a really good, well-performing video. Like I'm happy with the performance of this. There's no like huge drop-off points here. Maybe let's see here. Maybe no. There's not like any huge drop-off points in this video. I can show you some other videos, like if I do an ad read for a video, so the video is sponsored, and you do an ad read for the video, then there's usually a huge drop off there. So we'll go to analytics on, I'm trying to think of one with a good ad reading. No, that's like YouTube placing ads on there. So that's not the right one. Let's see, I don't know if I included ads in, I don't like to do ads in a lot of my content, so. Well, I thought this would be easier to find. Anyways, if you put an ad read, you'll see like a huge drop off in the analytics there. And that just means that like people are uninterested. They're skipping that part of the video to get to the information that they're actually there for. And so if you're looking at your analytics and you see that every time you talk about your favorite restaurant in Chattanooga, every time you talk about Chuy's on Gun Barrel, people drop off, they're just annoyed at it, they don't want to hear you talk about Chuy's anymore, then you know that probably in your next video, don't talk about Chuy's because people don't care. So the other thing that you want to look at, in your analytics is you want to look at which videos are performing well and then double down on the content that is performing well. And so if you make content, like let's say that you make a video on Chattanooga versus Knoxville and the video does really well, then it might be worth looking at other videos that you could do that are of a similar type. So maybe Chattanooga versus Murfreesboro, Chattanooga versus Nashville, comparing two big cities. That could be a good signal that that's something that the audience and the algorithm is willing to push to your audience. So double down on those videos that are driving calls, that are getting people to actually engage with your content. That's the other thing that you'd want to do with your analytics. Okay, so in section 3, we're going to talk about what content to create. Does anybody here have a YouTube channel for lead generation on YouTube? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Are you using it? You're not an agent, are you? Okay. Yeah. So this is going to gear a little bit more towards, this might not be as helpful for you, Sally, but perfect, sweet. So kind of the mission as a real estate agent is you want to show up when people search for terms like moving to Chattanooga, the best neighborhoods in Hickson, the cost of living in Saudi Daisy. You want to show up for those sorts of searches that people are making, because when we think about these search, these searches all show intent of relocating to the area, of buying a home in that area. And so we want to show up for that. And so, I'll go for it. Yeah, usually in the, oh, go for it. So what you do is there's literally rankings that show you online what the most searched for neighborhoods are in the area. And so basically my workaround would be is your title and thumbnail say best neighborhoods in the area, but you're not talking about schools, you're not talking about crime. Those are the two big things you want to stay away from when making those videos. But what you do want to talk about is the amenities in the community, the access to downtown, maybe if people are commuting. You want to talk about those sorts of things and actually show people on the ground what you like about that community. So you're not trying to steer somebody one way or another. You're presenting information, not the information we can't talk about. And if you ever mention schools, this is what I'll do. I'll say, hey, these are the schools in the area. I'd encourage you to look up the schools on greatschools.org. You can get all the rankings and information for those schools there. So it's what we do if somebody asks us about schools when we're out doing a showing. You just direct them to where they can find the information, or if it's crime stats, you show them where they can find the crime stats information, but you're not the one actually telling them, hey, this is a good area, or this is a bad area. So that would be the workaround there. Go for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You're like the curator of information. You're not the person that's making the claim, like, this is a good area, move here. That's dangerous, don't move there. You're not that kind of person. So okay, so the content buckets for agents. These are kind of the big content buckets that work well for agents. The first is search-based content, which would be like the pros and cons of living in Chattanooga or the cost of living in Hickson. The second would be community-based content. So a vlog tour of Soddy Daisy. This would be you actually on the ground walking around Soddy Daisy, telling people what it is like to live in Soddy Daisy, or what it's really like to live in Chattanooga. So for a video like this, I could see myself walking around Chattanooga, maybe going to one of my favorite coffee shops, talking about the things that I like to do downtown. But that's like a community-based, I'm on the ground, I'm actually there in the community making the video. The next bucket of content is authority-based content. These, I feel like, do better once you have an established audience. These might be good for people that have already been clients of yours, and maybe you send these out in emails once a month. But market update, Chattanooga housing, June 2025, May 2025, whatever. But you break out that information, you show people what the information is, and you send this to your existing clients because it helps them still get value from you as an agent, and it's one of those touch points that you can use to ensure that they come back to you in the future and to show that you're staying on top of trends and everything. So it sets you up as an authority figure in the market. So I can show you guys how to do the keyword research and figure out what the top keywords are in the area, but this is just some data that I pulled from earlier while making this presentation. These are the top search terms for neighborhoods in the Chattanooga area, and this is how many searches they get every month. So Chattanooga, Tennessee, you got 2.7 million searches every single month. Hickson is the second most searched suburb with 51,000 searches. You got Soddy Daisy at 54, downtown Chattanooga, 43, Lookout Mountain, 22, Cleveland, 16, Ottawa is at 4,800. This one kind of is interesting to me because when I think of competing suburbs, I think like Ottawa and Hickson, they're kind of similar size. It's sort of surprising that there's not as many searches on the Ottawa side. But I think what this comes back to is when I'm working with new clients, everybody knows how to say Hickson. Everybody is like, like they don't know how to say Udawa. And then if you tell your GPS, hey, navigate to Udawa, it's gonna spell it like UDUWA or something weird. So I think that's probably why it doesn't get as many searches, is people will hear the term, and they have no idea what they're searching for, and so this is quite a bit lower. Signal Mountain, 3,600 searches, and then Red Bank, 780. So why I'm showing you this is these are kind of the top suburbs that I would start making videos on as somebody getting started on YouTube. If we go here, I'll show you how you do keyword research. This is an extension called TubeBuddy, and it helps you explore keywords and how many searches people are doing for those keywords on YouTube every month. So we could search St. Elmo, Chattanooga. And let's see here. So videos and search results, we have 4,580 monthly search estimate. There's probably only 430 people searching for St. Elmo, Chattanooga every month, which is pretty low. So if you're gonna go out and invest time in making a video, especially when you're a brand new channel, St. Elmo might not be the best place to start because there's only 480 people searching for that every month, whereas Hickson has 51,000 people searching for that every month. So there's inherently a lot more interest in Hickson than there is in St. Elmo. Now, if you wanted to make a video on St. Elmo, what I would do is I'd package it in something bigger. So I'd say the top 5 hidden gem neighborhoods in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that I would mention St. Elmo as one of those and kind of tell people a little bit about St. Elmo and why people like St. Elmo. But that's just getting started. As you get more into your YouTube journey, and if you wanted to make a video on St. Elmo because it's your favorite place, then you could totally do that. But getting started, you're gonna get the most bang for your buck by going down this list and making videos on the things that actually have interest and search behind them. So this would be my content roadmap if I had to start my YouTube channel for real estate lead generation all over again. I would do city level videos first, so like a tour of Chattanooga, pros and cons of living in Chattanooga in 2025, 5 reasons people regret moving to Chattanooga, those sorts of videos. Because it's got a broad interest and there's 2.7 million searches for that. So that would be my first level of videos. Then I would go for every suburb there that I showed you with the search results. So back on this slide, I would do the same thing for Hickson. So you could be like pros and cons of living in Hickson in 2025, touring Hickson. You could do why people regret moving to Hickson. And then you just do the same thing for Soddy Daisy, downtown Chattanooga, because that's what people are actually searching for. And then finally, once you've made it through that list, that's like your first 15 to 20 kind of evergreen videos there. Then I would start to drill down into more specific questions. So the best Chattanooga suburbs for families. You could talk about what people are saying in online forums about which suburbs they like best. Udawa is one of the top ones for this, just because people like the parks. You could talk about Hickson in that sort of video, or you'd be in specific videos for people that are doing a more broad search of where they should move in Tennessee. So you could do Chattanooga versus Knoxville and talk about kind of how those cities stack up. But that would be my path, is I would first of all start with the ones that are about Chattanooga, then I would go to the top suburbs, and then I would move on to specific questions. And this will get you through your first, if you posted a video a week, this would get you through your first 6 months of video creation here. Okay, so section 4. First, does anybody have any questions? Am I going too fast? Good, cool. So section 4 here, packaging your video. This is one of the most overlooked things on YouTube, is the packaging. People do judge a book by its cover, especially on YouTube, and so it's incredibly important how your video is packaged. What is your thumbnail? What is your title? So David Ogilvy, he's kind of the, I'd say the godfather of modern copywriting. Pretty much every book on writing copy and advertising goes back and references David Ogilvy at some point. But he said, once you've written your headline, you've spent 80 cents out of your dollar. And the same goes for YouTube. Your thumbnail and your title are 80 cents out of your dollar. They're the most important things. The best YouTubers in the world, and I have several friends now that are multi-million subscriber YouTubers, and they all spend so much time on the packaging of their video. This is like the first thing that they do. And a lot of them, if they can't think of a good thumbnail and title for the video, they don't even make it. They might have the best idea for a video, but if they can't figure out what their title is gonna be and what the thumbnail is gonna be, they won't even make it. And this is because, like, if you make the best video ever, let's say you spend hours crafting the perfect video, you go all over Hickson, explore every little hidden gem in Hickson, spend so much time with it, you're really proud of it, and then you post it and your thumbnail and title don't get people to click. It doesn't matter how good your video is if nobody watches it. So there's two ingredients for YouTube success, I think, in the long run. The first is patience. It takes a long time. And the second is packaging. No one will see your content if they don't first click. So, thumbnails. Treat them like a digital billboard. This is just the last several thumbnails I put up on my channel. You want it to be really clear from the thumbnail what the video is going to be about. A lot of people, when they start on YouTube, they see all these thumbnails and they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to look so stupid on a thumbnail, like looking shocked up there. But it doesn't really matter. It's what gets people to click. If I just stood there and tried to look cool, it's going to get way fewer clicks than if I like stand there and, you know, do all the facial animations and things like that, because those animations, those emotions are what get people to click. It creates intrigue. People instantly see that and they're like, huh, maybe I should check that out. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit coming up here, but yeah, go for it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. Yeah, not necessarily. What you want to do when you're creating thumbnails is you want to think about your brand in the long term. And so you can see this Knoxville versus Chattanooga one. It kind of stands out from the rest because it doesn't look like the rest of my thumbnails. And so when I'm creating thumbnails, I think if somebody's seen a few of my videos and they like the content that I'm making, when they see another thumbnail from me, do they instantly recognize that it's me? And so this thumbnail here, I was just trying a different style. It's a little bit different than my other ones. And so, you know, I could have done it a bunch of different ways. I think I actually made 3 thumbnails for this video, and this one got the highest click-through rate. And so that's why this one is the one that's presented here. It can be worth doing, but the issue is if you don't have a lot of viewership, then it might not really matter. So, like if you're looking at your impressions and YouTube has only given you 100 impressions and they've kind of flatlined, then I probably wouldn't take the time to make a new thumbnail. But if you have 10,000 impressions on the video, then it could be worth trying a new thumbnail and title, because that could potentially spark some new views on the video. Yeah, so Netflix does this all the time. When you get on Netflix versus when you're significant other gets on their Netflix account. The thumbnails on there are going to be different for me than they're going to be for you. And that's because Netflix understands me as the audience. They understand my avatar, my viewing habits, what I've seen. And they're going to put different thumbnails on the movies that they're recommending that would appeal to me or appeal to people like me. And so what's really interesting is, I could get on Netflix and I could log in on my wife's profile on Netflix, and the content that it's recommending her, it might be the same movies, but they're gonna have totally different images on the front of them because Netflix has spent the time and money, significant time and money, testing this, and they understand that we might both like the same movies, but we're gonna click on totally different things. So thumbnails drive clicks, and Netflix knows this. They spend a ton of money studying this. They've like put out whole research papers on thumbnails. YouTube has done this too. They've put out research papers on it, but inherently, that's one of the things that drives the most clicks is your thumbnail. It's the first thing that people see. It takes like a fraction of a second for somebody's eye to process an image. And so that is your first thing. And if you catch their attention with that image, then they might read the title and they might click. Okay, so the rules for thumbnails. We could go into this, we could spend 90 minutes just talking about thumbnails really, but that would probably be boring for most people. The rules are include a face, so thumbnails with faces in them tend to get clicked on 3 times more than thumbnails without faces. So if you're not in your thumbnail, even if you feel like kind of cringy, you feel awkward being in the thumbnail, making weird, exaggerated faces, just do it. You're gonna get more clicks than if you wouldn't, and that will translate to more clients in the long run if you're doing everything right. You don't want there to be too many words in your thumbnail, because think about it, a lot of people are scrolling through YouTube on their phones, and the thumbnail is just this tiny little, inch by 1.5 inch square on their phone. And so if you've got a paragraph of text on your thumbnail, that's not gonna work for them. They're not gonna be able to read that. And so I try to keep it limited to 3 to 5 words on a thumbnail if I'm using text at all. I want it to be really clear and easy to understand at a glance what the video is about. And then you want to add context in your thumbnail. So if somebody glances at my thumbnail and they're remotely familiar with Chattanooga, then they might recognize the Chattanooga cityscape in the background, or if I'm doing a tour of a house, then it'll be really clear from the thumbnail that we're gonna tour the house. It'll be me standing outside of the house, pointing at it, saying something like $500,000 in Chattanooga. So they'll understand that by watching this, I'm gonna see what $500,000 buys you in Chattanooga. You can think of your thumbnail and title like a promise to viewers. And so what you're saying when you put a thumbnail and title up is, I promise that when you click on this video, you're gonna get what I said you're gonna get in the thumbnail and title. And if you don't, then people will leave your video. So let's get into titles a little bit. You wanna balance curiosity with clarity. And so what do I mean by this? Well, something too vague would be Chattanooga video. Like if you just uploaded a video and all it said was Chattanooga video, people would look at that and they'd be like, okay, but I'm not really curious in Chattanooga video. Maybe I'm curious in the worst restaurants in Chattanooga or the best restaurants in Chattanooga, but Chattanooga video is too vague. Too specific would be a complete analysis of every street in North Chattanooga with price points. That would be way too specific, because who wants to really sit there and look at the price points of every single street in North Shore? Maybe for a very few specific people that knew they wanted to buy in North Shore, that'd be interesting, but it would be a very, very limited audience. That's too specific. And just right would be 5 best neighborhoods in Chattanooga for families 2025. Because this is targeted, people can identify themselves as part of the audience in the title there, and it would be really easy for them to click on that and understand what they're going to get out of the video. So the best practices for titles is that you want to keep the title under 55 characters in length. So why is this? We'll go ahead and take a look here. So if we just go to my homepage on YouTube, you can see in the middle of the day, YouTube knows that I listen to long soundtracks just for focus music in the background. So this is a really long title here. This is like probably 100 characters worth of title. If I was on my phone, YouTube would cut off the title. Like I wouldn't be able to see the whole title. In this case, that doesn't really matter because I know what this is about. But you don't want your titles to get cut off if at all possible, because you want people to get the full context of what you're talking about just at a glance there. The other big thing that you want to do with your titles is front load your keywords. So if you're trying to rank for Chattanooga, I would try to put Chattanooga in the beginning of your title versus at the end of your title. Or if you're trying to rank for Ottawa, I would put that as close to the beginning of your title as you could versus at the very end of the title. And then the other thing that you're trying to do with a title is you want to create clear value and create a sense of fear of missing out in people if you can. So why are we doing this? If you think about the way that humans have lived forever, it's late at night, you're walking down a path and you hear some rustling in the bushes. If you were on a trail 1,000 years ago, that rustling could have either signaled danger, that could have signaled a threat, or it could have signaled that there was some food in that bush for you, okay? And so our minds are hardwired to think about, is this threat or value? And that's what grabs attention. And if you can combine threat and value or fear and value, you really grab a lot of attention. And so that's why I like to use fear of missing out and value, clear value in my titles. And so an example of that would be 5 reasons people regret moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So if you're thinking about moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee, if you're in my target demographic and you want to move to Chattanooga and you see this title, you might be like, oh my goodness, what are the 5 reasons that I might regret moving to Chattanooga? Am I going to regret moving to Chattanooga? And so this creates value because you know that you're going to get 5 reasons that people regret moving to Chattanooga, and it creates some fear of missing out because if you're going to move to Chattanooga or you're considering moving to Chattanooga and there's other people that regret that move, wouldn't you want to know before you move? So I'm always trying to think about how do you combine those two. And I don't do it on every video. I don't try to play to fear in every video, but it's a powerful way to get more clicks. My team lead, Wendy, I do all of her YouTube videos. Her most viewed video right now is, I think it's 4 reasons Californians regret moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So it's really specific, but it's, I think it has over 20,000 views on it right now. And it just goes to show how much there's like this value there that if you're from California, you're thinking about moving to Chattanooga, you say, okay, I've got to watch this. It's really specific. And then there's also the fear component that, like, if I'm in California, I'm trying to move to Chattanooga, I've got to know what the reasons are that Californians regret being here. So that's what I try to do with my titles, is put them together that way. Yeah, for me, it's pretty balanced on that video that we did with Wendy. It was, what was funny is a lot of the viewers were like, this is good information, and then a lot of people were like, don't move to Chattanooga, it's full. Don't, California is awful, you guys have ruined your state, don't come here. That was like most of the comments on that video. So it's you can play to controversy, and that helps get views. That actually helps you get a lot of views on the internet, is if something is kind of controversial, if it's like hits 2 groups against each other, it gets a lot of views. Maybe not the views from people that will be your best clients, but it does get views and it does generate leads. So go for it. Exactly. I think the tactic is actually called unselling your audience. So like if I was trying to sell you supplements, let's say I ran a gym, then something I would do to potentially sell you more supplements is I'd be like, well, you're not looking to boost your testosterone, right? I would say like a bunch of things like that, right? That, I would unsell you from all these supplements, and then by unselling you, you might be more likely to buy the stuff that I actually recommend, instead of, me just trying to sell. The other thing that I really like about YouTube, and that I think of a lot when making these videos, is people don't like to be sold to, but people love shopping with friends. And so if you can be the friend on YouTube, if you can be the person that's like, hey, let's go to my 5 favorite coffee shops in Chattanooga and drink a ton of caffeine today and make a video on that, that's kind of like almost has nothing to do with real estate, but then you're that friend that's on YouTube that's making cool videos, showing them cool spots they never would have thought of, and that sets you up as that trusted friend who is the real estate agent, but is also mainly just their friend and somebody to entertain them and have a good time with. So I think that's one of the big opportunities with YouTube. The other things with packaging, these kind of go along with packaging. Your description for the YouTube video. Search engine optimization, this is a big thing if you've got a website and you're doing blog content. Basically, in your description, you want to put some of the keywords that make it obvious to Google what the video is about. The more keywords you have in there that align with what the content is actually about, the easier it is for YouTube to push that content. But your description doesn't matter nearly as much as it used to, because now YouTube transcribes all the videos and it knows what the video is about once you upload. So this used to be super important. Now it's kind of important. I usually use my descriptions for putting links in, contact information, those sorts of things, but it's not where, it's not like I'm trying to write a blog post in there so that YouTube can know what the video is about. Tags and metadata. So when you post a YouTube video, there's a section where you can put tags into the video, which is just like, it'd be a bunch of keywords that you want to rank for. And this used to matter a lot more again, but now AI is getting so good, it knows what the video is about as soon as you upload it. And so this kind of matters, but I'd put most of your energy on the title and thumbnail versus thinking about your tags. In fact, a lot of the time what I'll do to come up with my tags for the video is I'll take the transcript for the video, plug it into ChatGPT and say, give me 500 characters worth of tags that are optimized based on the content in this video. And it will spit them out for you, and then you can just paste them in there. Okay, and the other thing that you want to think of with packaging is building a consistent brand over time. So what colors are you frequently using? What font are you using? What do you look like in your thumbnails and in your videos? Do you dress professionally? Do you wear a hoodie? Do you ride a skateboard around in your video? That could be part of your brand. One of the biggest YouTubers in New York City rides skateboards everywhere in his video, and he gets around that way. So, and that's a huge part of his brand. And so you want to think about what elements can you add into your videos that will contribute to your brand. So a couple examples of this. I've seen a YouTube realtor that always has his golden retriever in the videos with him, and that is huge for his brand because, one, people love golden retrievers, and then two, he's kind of like built a whole persona around it. It's like him and his dog. There's other people that maybe they'll dress in a suit every time they do a video, and their target audience is people that care about that. Those are the people that are more casual and laid back, but you want to think about the audience that you're targeting, and then think about what that audience cares about and bake that into your brand. So for me, being that my audience is a little bit older based on those demographics we were just looking at, it might be worth it for me to dress a little bit nicer in my videos and, kind of wear maybe a suit, do things like that, make sure my hair is done really well versus just, not shaving, coming out, filming a video looking like it's low effort. But for some people, there's actually some YouTube agents around here that just wear a t-shirt, they just wear, khaki shorts and sandals in their videos, and they do quite well with that. So it just comes back to what's your brand, who you're targeting. No, go for it. Yeah. Branding is one of those things that if you can nail it, it pays massive dividends, but it takes a long time to build an established, credible brand. Okay, so I've already mentioned this a little bit, but your packaging, your title, and your thumbnail for the video, it's a promise. And so on YouTube, there's a lot of clickbait out there. There's a lot of things where you'll see the thumbnail and title and you'll be like, oh, that looks interesting. And then you click on the video and you realize it's not actually what you thought it was. And so YouTube has really cracked down on that. I think in 2017 is kind of when clickbait peaked. It became a huge word. Everybody was like, there's so much clickbait on YouTube. Now they're really careful about it, and the best YouTubers try super hard to avoid clickbait. You want to walk this line of making an interesting package, an interesting thumbnail and title that gets attention, that gets clicks, but not something that's misleading or promises too much or is like overly dramatized. So it's kind of an interesting balance to strike there. But what our packaging does is it says, hey, in this video, if you click on this video, you're going to get exactly what I set your expectations up for in the thumbnail and title. Okay, section 5, video structure. So how do you structure the videos? The hook is probably the third most important thing in your YouTube journey. The first is patience, second is your packaging, and third is the hook. And so the hook, to me, ties directly into the thumbnail and title. In your thumbnail and title, you say, these are 5 reasons people regret moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then in your hook, you're going to want to reflect that thumbnail and title. You're going to want to align with that promise. So let's say that was my thumbnail and title, 5 reasons people regret moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then what I would do in the intro to my video is I'd say, hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about 5 reasons that people regret moving to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And the 5th one is something that I actually was a little bit surprised by, being a longtime resident of Chattanooga myself. So if you want to know that, make sure to stick around. And so what have I done there with that hook? First of all, I reflected the thumbnail and title. I confirmed to them that they're getting what they clicked on. And then I created some intrigue by saying that, hey, the one that we're talking about at the end, the 5th thing, which you're going to have to stick around to the end to find out, is something that surprised me. I didn't actually realize that was a regret people had. And so make sure to watch to the end to get that information. Go for it. To see that, yeah. So in your retention graph, like it will be like a big bump in people skipping to the end. So you'll see like people would drop off, and then it'll spike up where people skip to there, and they'll drop back off. So it's like when I was doing these diet videos where I'd try a diet for 3 months, people wanted to see the before and after, and so they would skip to that spot in the video, and I would always put it at the end of the video to kind of maximize the retention, because a lot of people won't skip, they'll just watch the whole thing. But then for those people that do skip, it gives you a huge bump in retention at the end when they skip to that part of the video. Yeah, you can do chapters, and so sometimes I'm kind of split on chapters, because sometimes if you put in your video and people only want to know about the one thing at the end, then they'll skip to that point. And so sometimes I'll put chapters in, like if it's a video that's more about, like say I was doing it's a 20-minute tour of Hickson. then if people really only care about the lakefront parts of Hickson, they could skip to that place in the video. But generally, especially for real estate content, I don't do chapters because I want people to kind of have to look through the video to figure it out, and that boosts your watch time, which signals YouTube to, push it to more people. So, okay. So the curiosity loop, this is a huge thing for retention in your video. The goal is to maximize the amount of time that people are spending with you on that video. And so you can open that curiosity loop by saying something like I did with the fifth reason is something that, I was surprised about myself, having lived here forever. So make sure to stick around for that. That is something that hooks them. They're like, oh, I've got to know that. And so you want to open these curiosity loops that create a question in the mind of your audience. And you can even do this in a micro way throughout the video. So let's go back to that Hickson tour example. Maybe I'm going around Hickson and I'm like, I'm going to show you my favorite thing to do outdoors in Hickson, but first let's get coffee. And so then I'll go to the coffee shop, show them kind of, drip kitchen in Hickson, so that's where I'm at. Introduce them to that, talk about some of the other coffee shops, and then they're like, okay, now we're coming back to that favorite place to go outdoors. And so that, you open these curiosity loops where they're like, okay, there's something that I'm waiting for here. There's something that I'm waiting on, but first let's get through this because this is also valuable. And so that's how I'll structure these videos. You want to keep opening micro loops throughout the video where they understand that there's something coming up that's going to be valuable, but first let's do this. Okay, the meat of the video. This is where you're going to deliver on your points. And so a really popular format for YouTube videos is the listicle format. So it'd be 12 things I hate about Chattanooga. Five reasons people are moving to Chattanooga. So this makes it really easy to just go through your video. You kind of know the structure of the video before you even start. And so this is a really easy way to get started with content creation is to do a listicle format because the meat of your video is already kind of lined out for you. You're just going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points and then the video's over. A couple of key points here. Like if you were doing a vlog tour, maybe some of the things you'd want to talk about would be lifestyle, the commute to downtown, housing stock, and pros and cons. Those could be some points to hit on. You're going to want to keep the pacing tight. So if you spend 4 minutes of your video telling people about the coffee shop that you're in, then people are probably not going to be super interested in that for 4 minutes because they came there for a tour of Hickson, not a tour of your favorite coffee shop in Hickson. And so just always think about, maybe just because you shot the content doesn't mean you have to put it in the video. Just because you filmed it doesn't mean people are going to be interested. So think from the audience perspective and cut things that don't add value. The final thing that you're going to want to do with the meat of your video is layer on B-roll. And so what this is, if you're talking about something, I always like to think show, don't tell. So if I'm talking about Harrison Bay, I'm going to get some footage of Harrison Bay in different spots and put that over me talking, so it's not just me talking about Harrison Bay, and so that people that are watching this from their phone, from their TV, from wherever they are, can get some visuals of what it's actually like to be out on Harrison Bay and what living in the area could be like for them. They'll start to visualize themselves there, and that increases your retention. So people will stick with you longer if there's more things going on than just you talking to them. Go for it. Yeah. Yeah, it totally can. That's just part of your description. And so it helps the video and that it gives people something to go look at and follow along with. Like if you're doing a recipe, maybe that would help you quite a bit. Because then people could click in and they could see the exact measurements for what you're putting in the recipe. But for real estate videos, you're gonna wanna think like, how does the information I'm putting in the description actually help the audience? And so if it helps the audience, then it helps the video. If it doesn't help the audience, then it probably doesn't help the video too much. Does that make sense? Okay, so then the end of your video, the close, the last 15 to 30 seconds of the video. Once you're through the meat of the video, you don't want to hang out for a super long time. So you don't want like a 3-minute outro to your video. You want to get through the video and then end quick. And so what I like to do in my close, there's a couple different closes that I'll use in my videos. One of them is I'll say, hey, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, YouTube thinks you might like one of these videos here. So go ahead and check that out and make a ton of content on what it's like to live in Chattanooga. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'll say something like that. And what the purpose of that close is to get people to keep watching and to engage with more content. And like we were looking at on my analytics back there, one of those videos had a 26% suggested rate, which means that at the end of my other videos, when I say that, that's where 26% of my traffic is coming from, is people clicking through at the end of the videos there. So that can be powerful. It can increase watch time. It gets people to spend more time with you. And really, the more time people spend watching you on YouTube, the more they feel like they know you. I've literally had people reach out to me from YouTube that are like, this feels weird because I've watched so many of your videos, and like it's like talking to a celebrity or something. So it's it can be kind of funny to see how people react to that, because they've spent so much time with you already. And so the goal is to keep them spending as much time with you, one, because YouTube will push it, and two, because the more time they spend with you on YouTube and the more value they get from you, the more they're gonna listen to you, the easier it's gonna be to work with them as a client. They'll already know, like, and trust you. And so it takes down a lot of those barriers that you might have with like a Zillow lead or somebody that doesn't really know you and isn't sure if you know what you're talking about and have their best interest at heart. So that's a really common close. Another close that I'll use is, I've started doing this as more of a mid-roll thing, but I'll be like, hey, thanks so much. If you made it this far in the video, I am a licensed real estate agent in both Tennessee and Georgia. So if you'd like help finding the perfect home and you think we would be a good fit to work together, I'd love to help you. You can reach out through the information in the description below or on screen here. I'll see you guys in the next one. So that'd be the other close, and that's a close directing people more towards reaching out, contacting me. I don't do that at the end of the video so much anymore. I'll place, basically like I place my own ad in the video at about 30% into the video, because that's where I get most people are still watching. And I'll say something very similar to that. I'll just be like, hey, really quick, sorry to interrupt the video. I am a licensed real estate agent in both Tennessee and Georgia. I'd love to help you find the perfect home. If you feel like we would be a good fit, book a meeting with me. All right, let's get back to the video. So it's just something really simple like that, quick call to action. It lets them know, if they haven't guessed already, that you're in real estate. And if they feel like you'd be a good fit, then they'll reach out. Okay, so retention boosters. These are a couple things that will help you retain your audience more. Open loops, we talked about this quite a bit. One of them could be, in a minute, I'll show you some of the biggest mistakes buyers make in Signal Mountain. But first, let's grab coffee. Another one could be on-screen captions. So this is really powerful in the intro to your video. If you have some captions, or if you are in a place where maybe there's a lot of wind blowing by you and your audio doesn't sound very good, you're gonna wanna have captions on there. In YouTube itself, there's a place where you can put subtitles in, and it kind of does it automatically now. But if you know that there's a portion of your video where the audio is bad, it's worth putting captions on screen, just baked into the video. And then the other thing is pattern interrupts. So if somebody's watching, it's a static shot, it's kind of boring. You're gonna wanna think about little things that you can do with maybe a sound effect here or there, or a graphic popping up, something that will kind of get them out of that, like, is this guy gonna ever shut up kind of mentality, and help them to re-engage with your content. So those would kind of be the big retention boost. This is the final thing that we're going to go over here, and then I'll open up for questions, but these are calls to action. So obviously we do want people to contact us from these videos. That's kind of one of the whole points of making content that's real estate related. And so there are 3 types of CTAs for real estate agents. The first is an engagement CTA. So this would be like, hey, if you found that interesting, go ahead and leave me a comment about what you thought about that. Or if you think that I missed one of the best coffee shops in Hickson, leave me a comment and let me know what I should try next. Or, it's just encouraging them to interact with the video. Or it could be, hey, if you think that you know somebody who might want to move to Chattanooga and you think this could be helpful to them, feel free to send it their way. This is another engagement CTA that helps you get more people interacting with your content. The reason that we want to do this is it signals to YouTube that people were actually engaged in listening to your content. And that's one of the things that they look at when they're deciding if they should promote your content to more people. The other CTA video that you could do, and I just talked about doing one of these at the end, is saying, check out my tour of Ottawa next, or check out one of these videos here next. What you're encouraging them to do is spend more time with you. That way they feel like they know, like, and trust you a little bit more. And then conversion CTAs. So these are probably the most important ones. And this is where you're turning viewers into leads, because if they don't reach out or opt into something, then you have no way to contact your audience. One of the things that you have to think about with YouTube is your audience is rented. Your audience is not your own until you have their contact information. And that's why you want to get their email address or phone number or any bit of contact information you can with anything you can. And so a couple of the conversion CTAs that I use is I'll say, hey, if you got value from this, I've got a free relocation guide for Hickson, Tennessee. You can access it through the description, through the link in the description. And so what that would do is people click on the link in the description. It takes them to a place where they can just put in their name, first and last, and their email address, and then it emails them the relocation guide. And then I have their contact information, and I can start to reach out to them. Now you'll want to make sure that for compliance reasons, they check a few boxes there saying that you can contact them. But yeah, we could get way more into that at some point. That'd probably have to be another workshop there. But anyways, that is called a high value content offer or a lead magnet when you have something like a document, a PDF, maybe an exclusive video for them that they have to sign up in order to get. And so those are super, super effective ways to get people's information and start to own your audience versus rent it. You could also just do a direct contact CTA. These are a little bit less effective because for the most part, people that are watching your videos, if they're gonna text you or call you directly, there's like a bit more friction to that. It's like, oh, do I really want to text this stranger online? It's kind of scary. Maybe they'll think it's weird. And so people don't do that as much as they sign up for a free relocation guide or something like that. So free relocation guide, that's a good way to collect information with less friction. So it's a little bit easier for somebody to do that. They don't have to book a call. They don't have to meet face to face. But you can collect a ton of information from them that way if you set it up right. Like in some of my forums now, I have it set up where if somebody says that they're considering moving to Chattanooga, it asks them in how long, like what their timeline is for moving to Chattanooga. So I've got 0 to 3 months, and 3 to 6, 6 to 9, or 6, I think it's 6 to 12, and then 12 plus. But that segments the audience for you right there so that you know who your hottest leads are that you should be reaching out to immediately and that you should really try to book that call with. And then you can ask other questions like, do you already have an agent representing you? Are you looking for an agent? You can put all of those into your forms to help you get a better idea of who it is that you're interacting with. The best placement for CTAs. So what I have found works really well is that you want to have your calls to action for the video in as many places as possible. And you want to limit it to one call to action that actually takes them somewhere. So if your goal is to get them into your email list, then you want only one CTA in the video for your email list. You don't want to tell them, hey, contact me and sign up for this relocation guide and do this, because you're sending them in too many places. You just want to keep it simple and give them one option. A confused mind never buys. And so you want to make it super easy for them to know what they should be doing next. And so I always think, what's the CTA for this video? What makes most sense? Is this video more specific, like somebody's done quite a bit of research on the neighborhood that I'm making this video on, or is it more broad? If it's more broad, then maybe you would direct them to a high value content offer like that relocation guide. If it's more narrow, then maybe you direct them to contacting you directly or booking a meeting. So if the video is like a really specific one would be touring Green Tech homes in Hickson, Tennessee. That's like pretty specific. Somebody that's watching that probably has high intent to purchase a Green Tech home in Hickson, Tennessee. And so you'd want a really specific CTA for that video. Like, hey, if you're thinking about purchasing a home from Green Tech, new construction homes, you want to make sure that you're represented, because they might not have your best interest in mind. You probably wouldn't want to say that, but you could word it differently and still get them to contact you directly if that was the level that the person was at. And then you want that CTA to show up everywhere that person could be looking. So you would pin it in the comments, you'd put it in the description, you would put it in the video in a couple of places, but it's the same call to action in multiple places in the video, because believe it or not, people will miss your call to action and they'll get mad at you for not having clear contact information if you only have it in one place. Like, I've literally had videos out there before where the contact information is in the description, and this like literally just happened to me 2 days ago. Somebody watched the video and they're like, wow, no contact information, great guys. They said something like that, but it was right there. I checked and it was right there in the description. And so if it's obvious to you, it's not obvious to your audience. It might not be obvious to your audience. So make it overly obvious, even if it feels too salesy. You want it to be obvious where you want them to go, because a confused mind never buys. The golden rule here is one clear primary CTA per video. So that'd be one clear action you want them to take from the video. I don't really consider engagement CTAs as being a separate action, because it doesn't require them to leave the video. So if you're saying, hey, comment, leave me a comment if you're thinking about moving to Chattanooga and let me know what state you're coming from. That's not going to take them off the video. They stay on the video to leave that comment. And so that wouldn't be my primary CTA. I wouldn't count that as like having an extra CTA. But if I told somebody, hey, sign up for a relocation guide, text me, follow me on Twitter, those are all like different CTAs that take them off the video. And so that would be 3 primary CTAs in that case. And that's just too many. You're going to pull people in too many directions. So that is it. That's all I had planned for this talk. Is there any questions or anything I can do to help you guys out? There's a lot. Yeah, it really is. It really is. Especially having, this is totally unrelated, but especially having a kid and trying to decide where you're going to eat. Like, I'll just be like, Meredith, just tell me where you want to eat. We'll go wherever. I don't want to decide, you tell me. Yeah, yeah. Yep, yeah. Oh, man, yeah. Well, but then you know that they probably have a place they want to go. Yeah. Yep. So keeping it simple. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Oh, for sure. I use AI for almost all my videos. I think it's the only way that I could do the volume of videos that I'm working towards right now. So, hold on, I'll show you this. This is kind of interesting. So, yeah, no problem. Let's see here. So if we go to the analytics on my channel, this is my favorite thing to look at because views can be a little bit deceptive if you're posting short form content, and we go to the 90-day view here. You can see, like, if I'm posting short form content consistently, I'll get like, 2,000 views on some days, and then standard is a little bit less. But watch time in hours is a little bit more important to look at, I think, because it shows you how long people are actually engaging with your content. And so, check this out. This is the beginning of this year. I posted a few videos the year before on this channel, and then in January, I actually closed my first lead from this channel. And then kind of throughout this time here, I've been ramping up how many videos I post a week. Through here, I was posting 16 videos a week on this channel. And the way that I would do that is through Keller Williams. We have Gemini, Google Gemini. And so you can go to Google Gemini here. It's included with your monthly dues. And you could say your task is to conduct deep research on what it is like to live in Ottawa, Tennessee. I want you to find out what real people are saying about living in this suburb of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then what you'll do is you'll change this in tools. You go to deep research, you do this, it'll think about it for a second, and then it will clarify what you want it to do. And then it basically spits out a huge report on your exact prompt there. And so you could go and cross-reference that with things. I have a script writing AP, custom GPT that I built in ChatGPT that I plug all this information into, and then it gives me like the script in my own voice, and I can kind of go through it there, bullet points. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. It cites every single thing here. So, and usually it will check, like you see so far, it's checked 23 websites. But usually for something like this, it will check like a couple hundred of websites. And then you can go through, you're gonna wanna fact check the information that it does. And so if you're citing a specific resource, then you'll wanna go and make sure that you have that exact quote or citation for it. Because again, you're not the one coming up with the information, you're representing the information. And the other thing that you wanna do if you're making your videos like this is I would always throw in a personal anecdote, because right now, with there being so much AI generated content, Google is looking at information gain when it comes to rankings for people. And so if you're just saying the exact same thing that somebody else's AI has said, Google recognizes that, and they're like, okay, this person's just got AI scraping other people's websites. They're not adding any information to the algorithm. So what you'll want to do is, if you do research like this, you'll want to be like, oh, okay, I've been to that place in Hickson. I'll tell a quick story about that experience over there in Hickson. Or, oh, okay, this is my personal experience of being at the Northgate Mall or whatever. You talk about your personal experiences. That way there is some information gained to the algorithm, and it doesn't penalize you for just regurgitating other people's AI slop, basically. I don't know if because AI platforms like Google, there are going to be, Gemini is going to be pulling information from YouTube transcripts. And so it might help you a little bit if you're doing that, but that's why you have to add information to it, because if you're just saying what it's already told you, then it just sees that as you regurgitating what it told you. So you have to like give it information gain is what it's looking for. Yeah. No problem. It's great to meet you. I use DaVinci Resolve, but I've got a couple of editors through the company, the ad agency that I have. So. If you're on a Mac, I'd probably just go with iMovie. It's already there. It's easy to understand. If you're, yeah. So I would just do whatever is easiest for you, honestly.